This video was digitized from a reel of silent 8mm film, and it's of USS Burton Island uh, in Operation Deep Freeze in 1960. And Operation Deep Freeze was a code name for a series of United States missions to Antarctica beginning in 1955. And the Burton Island was a U.S. Navy icebreaker, and she was AG-88, and she was commissioned in 1946 and then transferred to the Coast Guard in 1966 and served in the Coast Guard as an icebreaker until 1978 when she was decommissioned and then scrapped in 1980. And on this deployment, you can see, getting underway and going to the polar caps is pretty arduous duty. And I have several videos here of this deployment, Burton Island. I broke it up because I had three 7-inch 8mm reels, and there's this one, and there's another one where Burton Island and Glacier are together, and then there's another one where the Glacier is USS Glacier, which is another Navy icebreaker that was became a Coast Guard icebreaker in 1966. And then there's one I have of the Burton Island conducting their Blue Nose ceremony, which is a line crossing ceremony for naval personnel that visiting the polar caps. But yeah, I mean, going down to Antarctica, you'll see in this video and the other videos that it's pretty, like I said, pretty arduous duty. Going through the ice and just getting down to Antarctica and then being down there for a year. Uh, and here's just a little blurb from the Burton Island on this deployment. It says, while many Navy men sought duty on icebreakers for the adventure of working in places that very few people could claim to have visited, service aboard these ships was not without its hardships. Icebreakers typically deployed twice per year for 2 to 4 months at a time, particularly on the Antarctic voyages. Their assignments took crews to remote areas far removed from family and the basic comforts of home. When operating in the polar regions, the men experienced brutally cold temperatures and harsh storms. Icebreaking could be jarring, the ship ramming into thick ice or dangers when explosives were used to break up particularly difficult masses. And I'll get into that here in a little bit later when they're trying to blast the tug Mohawk out of the ice. And the distinctive rounded hull that made the ship so effective at crushing ice meant that they rolled terribly in even relatively calm seas. Seasickness plagued those unaccustomed to the rolling motion, and shipboard accidents that could be attributed to the icebreaker's movement were not uncommon. Service on an icebreaker was thus not universally desired. Very early on the 3rd of January 1960, the eve of Burton Island departing on this deployment, Deep Freeze 1960, one of the ship's sailors went to the extreme to avoid going to Antarctica in what was described as quote, an attempt on his own life, end quote. AGA Jackie M. Hunter took a razor blade and slit his wrist 3 times. Although the wounds proved superficial and were treated by the icebreaker's medical officer, the sailor was transferred to the Naval Hospital at Bremerton and did not make the voyage. Burton Island sailed for Antarctica on 4 January 1960, and after stopping at NAS North Island in San Diego to embark the HU-1 Unit 16 helicopter, which you'll see in this video. The icebreaker steamed south for Valparaiso. After enjoying 3 Liberty days in the Chilean port, Burton Island stood out on the 28th and began taking oceanographic stations that day. The ship would continue doing oceanographic work as she continued south for a scheduled 10 February rendezvous with the icebreaker Glacier AGB-4, approximately 350 miles north of Thorsten Peninsula. It said, which I have a rendezvous a video here, which I'll link below. So yeah, so you'll see this is a glacier in the down in Antarctica in 1960. And since this video is a little lengthy, I'm just going to play some background music here, and but I'll cut in, and when something interesting pops up, and explain it. Just going to jump in here and kind of explain what's going to happen with this balloon or weather balloon. They're going to put it in flight, and then you're going to see this plane's flying over, and it has a catching device on the front. I think this is the Fulton surface-to-air recovery system, and they're going to recover this balloon, and there's there's something attached to it, and so this balloon this plane is coming to pick something up from Burton Island, and it's also used to extract personnel too. They would let this balloon go, and then there would be a person attached to the bottom, and it would snatch them up. So, but I don't think that's what's going on here. I think they're just sending something up to the plane, maybe some sort of documentation or something like that. And then this gentleman here, you're going to see doing a selfie is, I do believe, the seaman that our chief. I think it was a chief that filmed this, a chief petty officer. So that's kind of nice. We get to see who's been filming this. To jump in here again, and the tug you're going to see it's a merchant tug, the Mohawk. And on the 12th of August, Burton Island got underway, heading east to assist the Mohawk through the ice well to the east of Prudhoe Bay. Although the icebreaker reached the tug on the 14th, Burton Island placed her number 2 engine out of commission for 4 days for repairs. The icebreaker temporarily detached from Mohawk and traveled further eastward as the embarked scientists ran more oceanographic stations. Returning to Mohawk on the 22nd, Burton Island began what would become a 6-day battle against what a contemporary press report characterized as the worst ice conditions in 5 years, to reach Point Barrow. Once again, moving very slowly through the heavy ice, now with Mohawk in tow, Burton Island stopped to repair the tow line and then again to fix the engine. In the meantime, heavy ice around Mohawk's rudder caused a steering casualty that had to be repaired. As the ships inched along in low visibility, the towing equipment required repair several times, and the icebreaker cast off Mohawk for a time on the 24th. The following day, Burton Island resorted to using explosives to blast the ice from their path. In setting off 3 4-pound charges, the demolition team succeeded only in blowing out the windows in the captain's gig. The subsequent explosion of 3 50-pound charges still failed to provide Burton Island with enough leverage to ram through the ice, particularly with Mohawk close astern and once again under tow, which did not leave the icebreaker much room to back up and run up onto the ice. After getting underway again on the 26th, there was a fire in Burton Island stack in the number 2 engine room, causing 1 injury. It continued to be very slow going for the icebreaker until after the 27th, when the ships finally reached a stretch of open water, and Burton Island finally anchored at Point Barrow in the early morning hours of the 28th. jump in here again, and this is Point Barrow, and uh, Burton Island sustained a rudder casualty on the 30th of July on her left rudder while she was ramming through heavy ice, and her left rudder got stuck to 10-degree left angle, and so they made it into Point Barrow on the 2nd of August, and the crew started to make repairs. And unfortunately, on the evening of the 5th of August, 1961, fireman James Carb was discovered dead in a gasoline pumping station on board. The apparent victim of asphyxiation. Carb had entered the area alone and became overwhelmed by the fumes from a gas leak. And continuing with the rudder repairs, Burton Island got underway on the 9th of August and spent the next week conducting uh, 2 additional hydrographic surveys, and then they pulled back into Point Barrow, and then after that headed back home to Seattle. I hope you enjoyed this piece of history, and uh, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more military and patriotic videos, which I try to upload every other day on my site. And if you're interested in a good read, check out my books at www.edsemler.com.